Okay, Florida friend. Um, I know you had asked me to kind of give you an overview of what we learned in our preparedness class, and I went ahead and did that. I hope this helps you out a little bit. Um, my three favorite topics that we covered are going to be the terrorism, natural disasters, and industrial emergencies. I've always been drawn to these things. I don't know what draws me to them, but anytime they happen, I'm glued to the TV and I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And I'm actually hoping to take a course in being a first responder, so I can be actually out there helping out and being right in the middle of everything. Because I love doing that. I love trying to help people when they need it the most. Um, so those are my three favorite topics, but I guess my three favorite concepts that I'm going to try to integrate with these are going to be the planning, adaptability, and anticipation of everything. I guess that's what really draws me to them. And yeah, and I'll try to explain how these interact with each other as we go along. So terrorism, we'll start with that. We all know what happened in Boston not too long ago. That was horrible. The World Trade Center, Oklahoma City bombing, and the bombing during the Olympics that were in Atlanta. Um, the way you would want to plan for something, I don't think you could. Um, but I guess the only way you would go about it, because you never know when they're going to happen or how they're going to happen or who's going to do what. With Oklahoma City, he was a domestic terrorist, and that was kind of like the first time we've heard of that term, that someone from our own country could want to do damage to his own country. But I just read an article about New York University, and I'll go into a little bit more detail here in a bit. But you want to get in the mind of the terrorist. You want to understand where you're working at, or that you might be a target for something like this. And if you look at it, high profile buildings like the World Trade Center, I'm sure people understood the risks and people understood that might be a target someday. It had been in the past. Stadiums, places where people gather, because that's what terrorists want to do. They want to cause the most harm in the shortest amount of time. They want to get on the news, get on the media. So they're aiming at these high profile targets. So you want to understand where you're at. So yeah, something you might want to do, some questions you might want to ask, are there dangerous chemicals nearby? Again, the World Trade Center, I bring that up because I can't imagine trying to walk down all those stairs and trying to get out of there before those buildings collapse. But you want to think about stuff like this, alternate routes, access to immediate health care, or the proper authorities if you need it. And here's that New York University thing. It's a graduate level class, and the class is a transnational terrorism course, and they're asking the students to plan terrorist attacks against the United States. They want to have them target a building or a group, how they would get funding, how they would do it. And a lot of people think that this is it's very controversial, but for me, I think it's smart. You actually think about something like this, and if something were to happen, I mean, you'd have an idea of how to get help, or what they did or what they used. So I think that was pretty cool. So I mean, if you do find yourself in a high profile place or a building, you kind of want to, maybe one day just say, hey, if I wanted to do something this terrible, how would I go about doing it? So in case it does happen, I mean, maybe you do have an idea. So natural disasters, we're talking about hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes. You want to create a plan. The American Red Cross, two essential things: creating a plan and creating a kit. For the plan part, you want to have a family plan. Make sure everyone in the family knows if something happens, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. And then you want a second evacuation plan if you're caught in a flood, or if the house is blocked out somehow, or or the city needs to be evacuated, you want to know how to do it. And in your kit, again, this is coming from the American Red Cross. You want a gallon of water per person per day, and you want at least a week worth of water. A lot of people don't do that. I know right now in my house, I have nothing like that. So you want a first aid kit, of course, food, granola bars, a radio. They recommend a hand crank radio in case the power or the batteries go out. So that way you just crank up the radio and it'll get a power. Flashlight, of course, and again, too, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I didn't think of this either. You want to stash away some of your medication, put it in a backpack somewhere, at least a week's worth of medication, because, yeah, if I was not with my insulin, yeah, I could be out in a matter of hours, really. So yeah, this is definitely something that's opening my eyes as I'm reading it to you. Hopefully it's doing the same to you as well. Industrial disasters, I know Chernobyl was kind of old school, but that was crazy. I kind of looked into it a little bit with the book that we're reading for class. Fukushima with that tsunami, that earthquake that hit Japan, and the fertilizer plant explosion that just happened. That was right after the Boston Marathon bombings. A lot of people thought it was connected, but it turned out it was just a freak accident. So with these disasters, you want to know what you're dealing with. Again, people understand what type of chemicals they're working with. They know that they're dangerous, that they could be targets of terrorist attacks themselves. But I can remember, like, even with our chemistry classes, we'd have lab safety, and we'd know where the first aid kit was, and the eye washing kit, and everything like that. So again, you know you're working with something dangerous, so you want to know how to fix it if something happens, if something bad happens. So yeah, you want to know your basic stuff when you're working with these things. So again, you want to have your people come in that make sure all the equipment are up to date. You want to run through practice drills too, and this could apply to any one of the 3 disasters that we talked about. If you have a plan in place, if you have an evacuation set up, throw some drills. Like in our elementary days, we'd have our fire drills and things like that. So I mean, we have it implanted in our head, so we don't have to think about it. If something happens, we just go. So that's definitely something you want to do. And again, you want to understand the risks. And I hate to say it, but the people that that work at these fertilizer plants or whatever, I mean, they go in knowing that something may happen. And just like these first responders and everything like that, we understand the risk, and we're willing to do it because it's either something we love or something we have to do to provide for our families. So again, how these kind of tie into public health, as you know, the public health does never stay the same. People are always coming up with scientific breakthroughs or medical breakthroughs and policy changes. And I just did an assignment with 2010 with Healthy People 2010, Healthy People 2020, and you see all the improvements and all the changes you got to do. So I mean, as public health representatives, we do have to have the ability to change and morph, and our environment is never the same, and we learn every single day, and we can't stop learning to keep up with this field, because I mean it changes. So just like what I was trying to do in this presentation for you was, you can never be prepared for an emergency. You can never be prepared for tomorrow in the public health field. So I mean, we try to be as prepared as we can. But I think our strongest characteristic as public health representatives is that we have the ability to adapt, and we can change, and we can anticipate things a lot better than other people. Because again, we learn, and from our history, we learn from now, and we try to learn from what's going to happen, tomorrow and the next day. But yeah, that was the whole point in this presentation. Like I said, those are my favorite topics, are dealing with the disasters and the preparation, the recovery, the response. But it ties into the public health field in general. Something can change tomorrow. We could have a cure for cancer tomorrow. We could cure for diabetes tomorrow. We could have a change in policy that would make us change the way that we try to educate people. So I mean, it's never the same, and I think that's our strongest suit. Just our ability to adapt and to anticipate. It's really what keeps us separated from everybody else. Everyone has their own set of laws and and rules, but those change for us all the time. So I hope this helps you. Again, those were my three favorite topics. But my favorite concepts again, were the anticipation, the adaptability, and the planning. Again, you could never be underplanned, in my opinion. So I mean, yeah, go through, make sure you got everything said, and I hope this helps you. And you have a good one, man.